Hello everyone, and welcome to my spoiler review for Disney's Zootopia. I've covered this movie so extensively on my channel that I figured my review had to be a long spoiler review because I've been anticipating this movie since that first teaser trailer came out, and I am so looking forward to discussing this movie with you. Now, before I get into the spoilers, for those of you who want to stick around, I'm going to do a quick non-spoiler review in the beginning, and then I'll warn you when the spoilers are coming in, so those of you who don't want to be spoiled and see the movie when it comes out this week, you can click away. So this movie is animated beautifully. The world of Zootopia is breathtaking. It's amazing how much work and passion and artistic creativity went into the creation of Zootopia, because everything is stunning. It's a realized world, and I could see this being an attraction in Future World or in some part of Disneyland or Disney World, maybe Epcot for a Disney World, and definitely Future World for Disneyland, because Zootopia, it fits a theme park attraction, because I feel like so many people would want to come see Zootopia because it's just so vivid, and there's so many amazing technologies that are There's so many amazing technological advancements that Zootopia has that I feel people would want to interact with, and also, getting to see the anthropomorphic animals, dressed up as well would be a really cool thing. Another thing to discuss before we get into the spoilers is this movie has a huge cast. It's almost as large as a live-action movie, which is crazy because it's an animated movie. An animated movie only has maybe about 5 to 7 voice actors, and then there's just like random people who work on the film that will contribute their voice, that will get credit for it, of course. But this movie has a huge cast. Now, the two main characters are Ginnifer Goodwin, or two main actors are Ginnifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman, who play Judy and Nick. But then there are so many other actors in this movie. It's ridiculous. There's Idris Elba. There's, gosh, oh my god, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. Kristen Bell, who was Princess Anna in Frozen. There was Alan Tudyk, who played the Duke of Weselton in Frozen as well. And I have a lot to say about Frozen in this movie too, because it's pretty impressive how much Frozen is referenced in this movie. So the movie just has a huge voice cast, and it's really interesting because the characters that are being played here are not so much well realized. They're relatively minor, but you understand how these characters, serve in this world. Like, what's their purpose? You really figured out, and granted, their main purpose overall is to develop Nick and Judy, because Nick and Judy are extremely well-developed, realized characters who I think are amazing. And let me just say again, back to their animation, Nick and Judy's fur looks fantastic. It's so well done. But back to the characters, there's just so many main characters, or so many minor characters, but each minor character you remember. So the writing for this film is also fantastic too. The writers, the directors, everything is just, it's really amazing how well everything for this film came together. Now, a film that's coming up is Moana, and I feel Moana might overshadow Zootopia, but right now Zootopia is showing me perfection in animation, because I'm truly amazed. So it's like an A+ movie, in all honesty. I would give it an A to an A+ because of its animation, its acting, the character development, and it's so beautiful. So that's pretty much the non-spoiler review part. It's pretty much go see it. So now, for all of you who want to know more about the movie, stay, and for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, turn back this way. Back button's that way. There we go. Yeah, click the back button. And let's discuss the movie. So Judy is a country kid from Bunnyboro. By the way, I was taking intensive notes when I was watching this movie during the screening. It was really rude of me to be on my phone, but I wanted a ton of notes. So Judy is a country kid from Bunnyboro. I think that's a great name for a town where she's from. And her big dream, of course, is to be a police officer. We see that from the trailers. And pretty much no one in her town believes she can become a police officer. The story of Zootopia is not rags to riches. And it's not, it's very much two unlikely foes come together, but they're really only foes because of their animals. They wouldn't even be interacting if it wasn't for the plot of the movie, of course. But Judy is a kid who needs to prove herself. And Nick, as a character, is someone who just does a completely 180 change in his personality. Now, like I said, no one believes in Judy, and she wants to disprove that. She wants to become a police officer. She wants to be the first bunny police officer, and she wants to move to Zootopia. Zootopia is sort of like the capital of this world that they live in, and then there's a bunch of like little cities and towns around Zootopia. It's sort of, I wouldn't say Zootopia is like New York City, but it's around like that type of thing. Like there's New York City, there's all the boroughs and whatnot, and then there's all the country that goes further as you leave the as you leave the city. Excuse me. So I said there was a couple Frozen references in this film, and the big one is, besides Kristen Bell being a voice of a sloth, the Duke of Weselton's voice actor Alan Tudyk, who I already mentioned, plays a weasel in this movie, and in Frozen, he's a Duke of Weselton, and he always hates when people call it Weaselton. But here, Alan Tudyk's character, the weasel, is from Weaseltown. So it's just really funny how they do that. And then also for another Frozen reference and other Disney movie references, because they must have had so much fun with this movie because it's so self-referential to Disney. There's Blu-rays that have, the animated characters done by animals. So there's a bit of Tangle. This is a little bit more Frozen. There's some Big Hero 6. There's Wreck-It Ralph. It's really cute. And it's all over the place. There's also a clear reference to Let It Go. Idris Elba's character, whose name I will not forget, he plays Chief Bogo. And Chief Bogo makes a not-so-subtle reference to Let It Go. I actually put that on my Twitter when I was watching this movie. I really wish I could have live tweeted it, but I just was able to at least get a few keynotes. So, Nick is a con artist, and he works with a bunch of like rodent-type animals, and he's trying to scheme everything and make his way, through life, because his backstory, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, because I'm going to try to go as the movie, by the plot of the movie. So more or less, Judy gets conned by Nick, and then she realizes that Nick has a connection to the crime of the animals going savage. In this movie, they don't call it feral, they call it savage, which I think is a pretty good term instead of having to use feral and explaining that to children, which is, the target audience for this movie. But I would definitely say adults will love this movie. As someone who is 24, I highly enjoyed that movie, but I'm also biased towards Disney. So Judy eventually, excuse me. So there's an otter, Mr. Otterton, and he gets abducted. And the problem is, where'd he go? And his wife wants to find him. And Chief Bogo doesn't do anything about it. And Judy promises the wife that she'll find, Mr. Otterton. And it's a promise that she pretty much can't keep, or seems that she can't keep. And Chief Bogo says, you have 48 hours to find him. If you don't, you lose your job. And Judy then is able to blackmail Nick because, like I said, Nick has a connection to these animals. And I'm not going to spoil that connection because it's so subtle and it's really just creative. But either way, so like I said, Nick has the connection. And Judy blackmails him to join him so that way they can solve the problem. And she blackmails him on tax evasion. It's so funny because this movie is so well placed in our time and then beyond, and to use very much modern ideas of tax evasion and to have iPhones and have pop culture references, to have Blu-rays. It's very creative, and I felt very connected to this world, which is why I would like to see it more in the theme parks. So So throughout most of the film, Nick and Judy are constantly at odds, but it's really interesting because they're clearly a platonic, couple, or well, I guess it's a couple. They're not a couple, but they're together, a group, I guess we'll say. Nick and Judy are always at odds, but their at odds chemistry works well with their backstories. So let's talk about Nick's backstory really quick. Nick, as a child, wanted to join like the park rangers, and all the park rangers or park ranger types were, herbivores. And Nick, as a fox, was pretty much rejected from joining. He got all the way up, and then he was hazed. They put a muzzle on him, and it pretty much made him never want to show weakness because he was really broken by this. And he then, fell into, being a con artist too. But that's where Nick's backstories come from. He doesn't trust herbivores, and pretty much Judy, who's not biased towards predatory animals at all, but as a child, she also was abused by a fox. So she and Nick, from their own backstories, don't trust each other enough. But from the adventure that they go on, and this movie, by the way, is a pure adventure movie, and it's awesome because you get to see all of the outside lands from Zootopia, but their adventures pretty much allow them to put their differences aside and have a beautiful quote that I wrote down that we'll be discussing at the end of the film, or at the end of this review. So like I said, they're on this epic journey, and then if you remember in the trailer, there's a mob boss scene. And the mob boss scene, I thought the mob boss, Mr. Big, was going to be the main antagonist of the film. And he turned out to be like an anti-hero in some way because he was really, really funny. And Judy saved his daughter from the Duke of Wesselton, or from the Weasel, at one point in the beginning of the film. And, you know, when they were going to be iced by Mr. Big, the daughter stopped them. And then Mr. Big was always on their side. And he comes back at the end to help them out to solve the overarching crime. And here's the great part about the movie. As you watch this film, you are always trying to guess who the main antagonist is. And Disney does this really well. Now in Frozen, it was kind of a curveball to make Hans the antagonist. But here, it works out really well because the antagonist is pretty much nature. There's this flower called the night howler. And in the movie, we think it's the wolves because the wolves are guarding this factory. And we find out that the mayor is housing these animals who are going feral. And we think the mayor is the reason behind the actions, but the mayor is not. He wants to solve the problem. Yes, he's housing these animals against their will, but because of the feralness that's happening to them, the animals have lost their humanity. So, I guess to put it, long story short, the whole part of the movie, we don't find out who the antagonist is until the very, very end. And it's a really cool reveal, and you don't expect it, but it works. Hans, I don't think, really worked well with Frozen because he was just too perfect. Here, the antagonist really makes sense, and I have more details about that in a second. So, like I said, the mayor was holding these animals against their will, and due to him holding them against their will, Judy exposed the mayor. And when Judy exposed the mayor, she made this speech and pretty much said that herbivores and carnivores can't get along because carnivores are what's regressing. Or they're the animals that are regressing to their feral instincts, or to their primal instincts, I should say. And it causes a rift between Judy and Nick, which makes sense that there would be a rift at some point because they're a team, and at some point the team has to split up and get back together. It's just a stereotypical trope of movies like this. But it works really well because you understand why Nick feels so betrayed by Judy, but Judy feels really bad about this. And let me say, Ginnifer Goodwin's acting here is fantastic. She's great on Once Upon a Time, mostly, but that is more so due to the writing than her actual acting. But her acting here is fantastic. I don't hear Ginnifer Goodwin, and I also don't hear Jason Bateman. I hear Nick and Judy, and I love that so much. And also, another thing is, throughout the film, like I said, their personalities really evolve, but Judy has this really great strong will. And I love just her character because she's strong, she's funny, and Nick is funny and entertaining. And they just work really well because of they're at odds. So after Judy makes this speech and the mayor is scapegoated, they're trying to figure out what's going on. But Judy quits the force. Or when I say figure out what's going on, I mean, we think the movie's over, pretty much, because it seems like it would wrap up nice and neat. But the problem is there are animals that are still feral, and there are more attacks going on in Zootopia. But Judy, her personality is broken because she's lost Nick. And I think that works really well for Judy because it's showing that, you know, she's going from being the strong-willed bunny to someone who very much cares about her family, but she didn't really have a lot of friends. And now she has this really close partner who she lost. So, like I said, Judy's really well developed. So she quits the force because she feels so bad about what she's done, and then she goes back home to her family's farm in Bunnyborough. And her parents, by the way, are also so awesome. They're really cute characters. I really like her parents. I really hope they make like a little stuffed animal Hopps set, you know, where you have Judy's mom and dad and Judy. At least, you know, that'd be a good kid's gift along with Nick as well. So we get to Judy's farm, and she's selling carrots again because that's what bunnies do in the country. And the fox who abused Judy when she was younger apologized to her. And then Judy and her parents are talking about a flower called the night howler. And the night howler is this flower that has this aromatic effect that turns animals back to their savage form. And it's a really great way that the movie is able to bring it all together, because Judy, she's able to make amends with someone who really hurt her, and she's able to figure out what's going on. Someone is harvesting the night howler flower, and that is what is causing the problem. So nature is an issue with the movie, but it's not the animals regressing. It's because someone is forcing them to regress due to a aromatic effect, due to nature, or a flower from nature, because that's where flowers come from. So we find out that the main antagonist of this film is Dawn Bellwether. Now, I haven't mentioned Dawn Bellwether before, but Dawn Bellwether is the assistant mayor, and she is a sheep, or a lamb. Relatively the same thing. I believe a lamb is a baby sheep. And so she's a sheep. She's an adult. And the Dawn is a supremacist against carnivores. She doesn't like them at all. And she doesn't like the fact that there are so few carnivores and so many herbivores, but the herbivores, are the suppressed species, pretty much. That's how she feels. They're really not suppressed at all. But she just can't get over her differences with them, and she's the one that is causing the animals to regress because she wants to remove all of the feral creatures from Zootopia, which is a utopian society, more or less. Granted, it has flaws, but it's pretty utopian. Sorry, I was itching my foot. So the movie is interesting because after Judy fixes her problem with Nick, she and Nick, figure out about the night flower, like I said, and they go confront. They want to go report the evidence to the police, and then that's when Dawn Bellwether comes in. I'm sorry that the spoiler review isn't exactly sequential, because my notes aren't sequential either. I was just really writing down as much important information as I could as the movie was going on, and also trying to pay attention to the film as well. So Nick and Judy get into another trap, and Dawn, hits Nick, or infects Nick with the flower, so that way he'll go feral. But it doesn't work, because they tricked her and gave her not a fake flower. She infects him with a dart gun. They gave her a fake dart. But a lot of us saw from the trailer that Nick would go feral with Judy, and he sort of does. In the acting, when Nick and Judy go feral, or when Nick goes feral on Judy, is really great, because Ginnifer Goodwin seems like she's in so much fear, and Jason Bateman, or the animation of Nick, Jason Bateman doesn't really talk. He might growl, but the animation of Nick going feral and attacking Judy was also really, really well done. Now, there's a great scene in the movie in the beginning when Judy pretty much blackmails Nick into joining her side. And then she uses a carrot pen and records his voice. And here they record Dawn Bellwether's voice, because she says she's just going to blame Nick and Judy for the problems. And when they have her voice recorded, pretty much it's a confession, and then she gets arrested. So that is pretty much how the movie goes. At the end of the movie, because Nick and Judy work so well together, Judy wants Nick to join the force, and he does. And Judy ends this movie with a really great quote, and it's kind of paraphrased right here. But she goes, "We all have limitations, we all make mistakes, and we all have a lot in common because of that, and we should always try to understand each other to make the world a better place." The movie has a great message with that quote that I said. The animation is stellar, the acting is amazing, and I really enjoyed this movie so much, and I'm really glad I got to discuss it so intensely and so long with you guys, because it's a really, really fun movie, and I hope you all will take the time to see it, because Disney did something special here with Zootopia, and I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much for checking out my spoiler review of Zootopia. I hope you all enjoyed it. I actually can't believe how long this video went. It's over 20 minutes, which is wild. I've never done a spoiler review for that long, but I really hope that you all enjoyed it, because this movie was fantastic. It's just done so well. Also, the guys the creative minds behind Tangled were the creators of this movie, and I think because Tangled is so well done, it's very much reflected here. And also, there's a couple of references to Tangled in this film, but there's more to Frozen. But we do see a Tangled Blu-ray in this movie. But the idea of just getting along, accepting who we pretty much accept everyone, because we all are very in fact the same, is a great message here. It's because Zootopia is a utopian society, and they should be at peace, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. I really loved it. I've said it like 4 times, and I really hope that all of you love it. So thank you for watching my trailer review, my spoiler review for Zootopia. I think I said thank you 3 times now. But thank you again. You guys are a great audience. I hope you will leave your thoughts about Zootopia in the comments below if you stay through this whole video. And we will talk about Zootopia in the comments. And if you want a non-spoiler review, I'm asking that's the end of the spoiler review, but if anyone out there wants a non-spoiler review, I'll do that too. But if not, I've covered Zootopia, and the next part of Zootopia is either going to be the art book or the Blu-ray. So share your thoughts, and we'll talk very, very soon. Bye, guys.